chances, which feels kind of war related for some reason. It feels like this redemption of like people who have done things out at war they don't really want to be reminded of, so they're like coming back, people, the men who survived, coming home to their families, their wives, and it's like they don't want to be reminded of a character who has killed someone, has done these things that for the sake of war, but they want to have a character who has done these things but can be redeemed because it's not a bad thing to do it.
He can come back and be normal and
because around the holidays you want to be happy, and it's like I feel like It's a Wonderful Life, and it's got a nice note, kind of like you said, a Christmas Carol. The main character in that isn't nice, but he is kind of
he's redeemed at the end
in that way of being like, you can do these bad things but you're still a great person, which is kind of like those men who were forced, I guess, to fight in World War II, coming home, and it's like, hey, look, you're great. You had to do things to protect, and they want to see that.
Thank you for your service, but put that down and now
and have that kind of
get back to the kids and everything, and the wife, and
so, which I think is fun. Because the thing is, okay, so movie codes came out. This is like really early, like 1930s, but basically it's like, okay, the certain set of rules. Movies were just movies before then. They didn't really have rules they had to follow. Like how the bad, like good guys always have to win, and like a bad guy always has to be like. Currently now we have more movies where it's like the main character is a bad person, or all these different, like these twists.
Well, Christmas movies are Bad Santa and The Grinch, and this is
sure.
They all seem to be bad in some way, but they end up doing
they
good.
Actually do the good in the end. To reveal that they. So I do think that's interesting that during the 1940s, again, we're talking about war coming home, because that's kind of the main. I mean, half of the 1940s was war. Really, it's exactly half of it was. So it's interesting to think that obviously they made it so that the characters in those movies would be like Scrooge, where it's like it's fine if you were acting that way for a reason, but like now, because the thing about Christmas movies back then, which we'll get into later on about like the actual current Christmas movies, but back then it was like a nice ending, even if you're kind of like not great at the start, like characters be redeemed, and obviously second chances and all these things. So that's, I think it's really interesting that the characters in those earlier movies, they weren't necessarily like good guys, but that they got redeemed because they understood their mistakes.
But it's like children's movies, isn't it? Are always there's always that redemption at the end. There's always the bad person does the good stuff. It's like bad people do good things.
Well,
I
was finally saying to you during Bad Guys 2, which is that most of the time in a sequel to a children's movie, the villain of the first movie is then in the group of people.
Every time he becomes part of that.
You know what it reminds me of? It's Fast and the Furious. They always do this.
Yeah.
They started off that with like 3 people, and then by Fast and Furious 10, they had like 9 people in the group, because every villain of the previous movie becomes a part of the group, and then they fight against
someone like John Cena.
John Cena in Fast and Furious 9
and
was the villain.
In 10,
he sacrifices himself for like the group,
And he says, "Tell my brother, thank you for showing me the way," and everything.
But so 1940s, you've got all this stuff going on. Skipping down to the 80s, you've got Home Alone, Gremlins. You've got consumerism, chaos. You've got like these movies that, Gremlins. Have you seen Gremlins?
I've seen Gremlins.
It's not Spielberg, actually, is it? I think it's produced by his company.
That was a huge film at the time. We went to see it when it came out at the cinema, because it was quite an amazing film to watch.
Oh, really? Did you watch that?
I did, I went with my friends, Me and my friends back then, back in the very early 80s, it was the first, Derby, where I lived, was the first place in the country to get a multi-screen cinema. And for some reason, they built 2 at the same time. So Derby had 2 multi-screen cinemas, and the rest of the country had none. Well, we used to go regularly to the cinema as a group, like 10, 12 guys, and see films. And we went to see Gremlins. And we went with a guy who'd already been to see Gremlins a couple of days before, and he went, "I'll go again, it's a really good film." It's a really different film. So we were like, yeah, fine. So we went as a group of guys to see this, if you like, kids film, but it was really good. We were like really impressed with it. We really enjoyed it. It was different to the normal run-of-the-mill film.
Interesting.
So we've always been into film. I've always been into film.
But I really love it. I mean, the 1980s is very kind of unique, not only in film but just the whole decade. To think back to the 80s is just like the hair, the costuming, the music, everything is so 80s. But yeah, the
I
Christmas
think they were
films.
learning things back then in film, and
Yeah.
you know, moving on from the older way of doing things. You know, it's like that's when you started having bad guys who were bad.
Yeah.
And I know we went to see a film called Housemaid the other day. We're going to review this film.
The upcoming review.
But you were really annoyed that they couldn't have a bad woman in it.
Yeah.
She couldn't be
I
bad.
guess spoilers for The Housemaid if you hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah,
but yeah,
a little
in that
bit.
movie...
There's a lot more to say about it. But
yeah, it's kind of revealed halfway through that the female villain actually was being basically manipulated by a man. And I'm like, I just wish... I love the twist, but I wish that they could just... like, as a woman, it feels... always like they don't want to do that, you know, because it's like the man is the person all along, and we'll get into it in the review because now I know what you did last summer does the same thing, but yeah, I get what you mean in terms of twists. Now they're always different from the 80s, but I do love how it's like I feel like Christmas movies in the 80s were very like stressful a little bit, like the characters going through, like Home Alone for example, you know, all those characters are just going through, as you said actually, having characters who are bad, you know, Joe Pesci in that movie, and Harry and Marv, you know, the Sticky Bandits, they are bad. They're trying to rob this, but it's like, you know, there's to think about Home Alone as a different genre. It would be so scary because it's like he's a kid, and they're breaking in, and like he's just. It feels like, but because it's all so slapstick kind of.
But he's playing with them. He never kills them or anything.
But they should be dead. They should be dead.
If he killed them, they'd go like 10-year-old boy stands his ground. You know, it's amazing, and we'd all be like, wow, what a 10-year-old kid he is. But he doesn't. He just plays tricks on them. You know, and they kind of get banged on the head by bowling balls.
I mean, and the mom always forget. You know, it's like it's a funny thing, but thinking of it as a serious thing. But no one does. No one thinks of Home Alone as a serious thing, like a serious. You know when you just think of movies, people are always like, yeah, but that would never happen in real life, and it's like, yeah, but sometimes there's movies where it's like, no one ever points that out, and Home Alone feels like one of them where it's like, no, this would never happen in real life, but it's like
you have to accept.
You have to accept it, but I feel like no one ever critiques Home Alone for that reason because it's like you just accept it because it's so ridiculous. But
we like the fact that the child.
Is winning
outwits them, you know, because you almost feel like that'd be great. You know, I'd love to be like that. I'd love to do that. But as a man, you know, as a big man, I'd have to go straight down the stairs and be face to face with these guys, you know, and have an actual brawl.
I agree.
So I wouldn't be.
Well, I agree that you would.
So
I don't know
as a guy, that's kind of like how I feel, you know. But he's all doing tricks and what have you, and setting them up, and. People enjoy that. They like that. You know, hence they made Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. Yeah. Except I think the Home Alone 2 has him in, but I don't think the rest have the same characters. I think it's just the same general concept.
Idea,
but Home Alone 2 Lost in New York is a really good movie. It's better than the original, my personal opinion. Because it's got Donald Trump in it. Donald Trump plays himself because back then he was in the 90s in New York. He lived because he had Trump Tower.
Was he evil in it? And was he the bad guy?
He just had a cameo. He just told him like directions in the hotel. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it's a famous hotel in New York, and he was staying there.
If he was really going to be himself, he'd be telling the bad guys what to do. I think.
He was just. He didn't even say my name's Donald Trump. It was just like. He just appeared as.
It's just because I don't like Donald Trump.
Anyway, but something I think is interesting in. Well, yeah.
We're gonna.